Hey, Greg here for Party Foul. Got Scott behind the camera, and we're going to talk about units. Just a general sort of video on the anatomy of a unit and the positioning and use of a unit. So something that I've seen from new players like consistently is that they take their unit and they line it up in a big long line, or they come at the enemy and here's all my dudes, and what happens? They all generally die. So we're going to talk about deploying your unit in depth and keeping some elements of your unit for a counter-strike type of thing. And we're also going to talk about how a unit's activation functions. And to do that, we're going to get down on the table, take a look at some models.
You're going to get down.
Okay, so down here we got a unit of Kadorian pikemen, where it's their turn. We're going to talk about their anatomy and their activation. And they're facing off against some evil Crixian people. And there's a unit of Mechanothralls with the Brute Thrall, and they're kind of screening for a unit of Soul Hunters. So the Soul Hunters are outside of the charge range of the Iron Fang pikemen, but the Mechanothralls are in. So the Khador player has, I guess, the unsavory task of dealing with, he wants to kill the Soul Hunters because they're more valuable and have a better capability of killing all the pikemen, whereas the Mechanothralls are just kind of getting in the way. So let's talk about the anatomy of the unit. So when you purchase a unit, it's going to be 6 or 10 models. So that's called a min or a max unit. In this case, this is a max unit. It's actually 12 models because we're using the command attachment for it. And the command attachment is a UA fella who has boxes and it generally has slightly better stats, like a better mat, and a little flag thing guy. So they both do two separate things. The UA generally provides you a model with slightly more durability and usually a mini feat or a granted ability. In this case, the mini feat for the Iron Fang pikemen is they get to reform and go into shield wall, and they get reposition 5. It's not reform, it's called reposition 5. So they get reposition 5 that turn, and they can go into shield wall. And the flag guy, I don't think he does anything besides give plus 3 inches to command range or something like that.
3 or 5, and then
he gives them, I guess, within 5 inches of the leader of the unit, whether it's the UA or the leader model, if the UA has been killed, you get a bonus to your command range, so you can spread the unit out further. So I've arranged these dudes in sort of like what I call newbie formation, if you will, where just all the dudes are in one spot and they're all packed together tightly. And I think this is what new players just generally think they have to do. I have to put all the models close together, but that's not necessarily the case. You can split up the models and create a unit that has more depth, which gives it more survivability and more counterattack ability. So with these guys, they do like to shield wall, so you generally want to have little pods of 3 or 4 dudes, keeping everybody in the shield wall, so it's difficult to eliminate that plus 4 armor. So who's the UA guy? He's right here. So this UA, they probably have like a 9 command or something like that with a flag or whatever. Maybe 10. I don't know. But so this is a fair, even if for this unit, this is a fairly tight formation. You got the UA back here, another pod of dudes back here, and then you got 2 pods that are in the front. So this is a better formation in the sense that if, say, they take a charge, say by the Soul Hunters or something like that, the Soul Hunters are going to be able to kill maximum 6 models. And then they're going to have to reposition, and they're going to reposition in such a way that they're still going to be in the threat range of the remaining models. So even if your opponent out-threats you by a considerable margin, you can just put up a group. In this case, he could be even more wily and just put 1 pod and have another couple of pods back here and 1 back here as reserve, so that you've got something to sort of counterattack and reduce the ability of your opponents to do damage. So the leader model, in this case, it's the officer, the UA, is the sort of the central node of the unit. All models in the unit need to be in the command range of the leader of the unit, whether it's him or if he's dead, the unit leader. In this case, we're going to go with like 9 or 10 inches. They're all in the command range. This is a perfectly legit formation. Now, if the flag is over here, not within 5 inches of the UA, he's got a significantly smaller command bubble, which is probably 7 or 8 inches. If a model is out of command, like say for some reason, this guy's up here, there are a few bad things that happen to that model who's out of command. When the unit activates, this model basically has to either advance or run directly towards the leader at the point at which he activates. And he does not have a melee range, and he cannot make a combat action during his activation. So times outside of his activation, he has a melee range, which is 2 inches, but he cannot make attacks. So he can't make free strikes or that type of thing. So this Mechanothrall can just run right by him, no problem if he's out of command. But if, say, the Mechanothrall runs into his melee range, and then somebody tries to shoot from some Crixian model, tries to shoot him, he will count as being engaged, even though he's not capable of making free strikes and attacks out of activation because he's out of command. So those are the two big things that happen to models that are out of command. They have to forfeit their attacks, but they can still run. So they run or advance towards the leader and say this is the situation, and I activate the unit, and the leader runs to here. This model started the unit's activation outside of the command range of the unit leader, so he has to advance or run towards the current position of the unit commander. So he can just back up to here or something like that, and the other dudes can charge or run past him. And the other thing is that they lose the ability to make attacks or free strikes at any time if they're out of command. They still maintain their melee range. That's important. A lot of people don't know that. So let's get back to the unit activation. Where's my little UA dude? I lost him. They all look the same to me, Scott. He had his pokey stick out. Oh, here he is. He got stuck back there. Okay. So when you activate a unit, you have to declare what the unit is doing. So most units can only do two things. They can advance, or they have to do their movement first. They can advance, stand still and aim to forfeit their movement for aiming bonus, or they can get a press forward order. And the press forward order allows models in the unit that are in command to make a run or a charge. So they either run, which is double their movement, or they charge, which means they pick a target, an enemy model, and they move following the charge rules. So their speed +3, ending within melee range, all that type of thing. Other things that can happen is the mini feat can happen. So say in this situation, we're going to try to resolve this in a way. We activate the unit. We say, I'm activating the Iron Fang Pikeman. I'm going to pop their mini feat. And this is kind of an important... Actually, this is something that somebody brought up at that game thing, is the unit leader, the officer who has the mini feat, does not have to be the model to pop the mini feat.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Apparently. So most of the time when I do it, I'm like, before the officer runs, I declare that I'm using the mini feat, because when a model starts to run, it can't do anything else. So whether it's the officer or the situation where any model can pop the mini feat, as this player claimed, somebody has to do that. So I'm going to activate them. I'm going to say, I'm going to make some charges. I'm going to... These guys are out of threat range, is what we wanted. We do want to kind of kill this Thrall dude. So he's going to charge the Brute Thrall, because he's got good damage output. This guy is going to charge that outside Mechanothrall, because we want to give this guy shield wall. And now this guy is going to charge this dude, like so. And then this guy's going to charge this dude. What we're basically doing is just charging the front line of models, right? This guy's going to charge this dude. And this guy can also declare a charge against this dude. The rest of the guys, since they do not have a model within their threat range for charges, have to run. So I declare I'm using the mini feat. And now I'm going to run them to a position. You would think, oh, I'm just going to run them up as far as they can. Got to remember, I've just popped the mini feat, so these guys got to reposition. So they're going to go a little deeper to try to prevent some charges on this guy's. So I want to position these models far enough forward that they can threaten the enemy models that are going to try to attack and kill the front line. So I'm going to have a front line of dudes who are probably going to kill a few dudes and then they're going to die. And then I want a bunch of dudes who can counterattack and go in. So I'm going to run this guy up here like this, like this, like this. So I've got my little pod thing. The officer, his position is going to be very important, so you want to take special care on positioning on him. If these guys are going to reposition 5, they could potentially go up this far, assuming they kill all these models that are in their way. So I want to make sure that wherever I put the commander model, he is going to be able to keep all those models in his command. So he can run up to there, and the flag dude and this dude can run up to here, like so. So I've done the movement portion of the actions. Now I have to resolve the charge attacks. Charge attacks are mandatory. If you forget to do it because you're too busy positioning these models and you move on, it is perfectly permissible for you to go back and resolve the charge attacks, because they are not optional. So say we kill all these lousy defense 11 Mechanothralls, who are defense 11 for the current portion of it, and we kill the Brute Thrall. Now we're going to resolve the mini feat for this particular unit, which is they get a 5-inch. I don't know why I did this, but because they don't have shield wall, right? Because they don't receive it. Yeah. So because these guys ran, they will not receive the shield wall order, and they will not be eligible for the 5-inch reposition. So maybe my positioning on these guys was a little derpy. I should have spread them out a little more, just to prevent any AoEs or anything like that from getting them, because they're not going to get the shield wall order anyways. But these guys are getting the shield wall order, so they're going to be able to advance 5 inches. So I'm going to advance this guy as far in on this dude to, gum him up, as it were, to prevent him from charging and getting all those benefits from charging. Same thing with this guy. And I'm basing them together, and I have to make difficult decisions here where I have to, like, do I want to make a pod there? That type of thing. I do want to prevent charges and whatnot. So, there you go. They've repositioned, they've shield walls. So these guys are going to be armor, whatever it is, 17 or something? 18. Armor 18, so it's going to be a little harder to kill, and they've moved in depth to try to prevent charges from these models here that they're really worried about. So that's how the unit functions in terms of its anatomy and its activation. And it's also a little bit of a demonstration on how to properly use a unit to have depth to his attacks. Whereas if I just run all these guys up to here, my opponent might have an opportunity, like if he ghost walks these guys or something like that, and they just move around and start stabbing dudes in the back of the shield wall or whatever, then they can get to these guys, right? Whereas these guys are back here, they're in a spot where they can counterattack probably a lot of the stuff that's going to be here. Maybe they need to be a little further forward. I don't know. Soul Hunters are very fast, and they got reposition 5, so they get places. But the idea is that I'm keeping a portion of the unit back, so that next turn I will still have a portion of the unit left to counterattack whatever has destroyed the front models. So yeah, I think that's about it, eh? It's pretty
I
good.
think in this example, I think you lose you lose the front ones, they come back, and then they don't get to countercharge.
Yeah, exactly. So in this situation, I probably should have run these guys up a little further to make sure that wherever
kill them, and then they
this is probably a bad example because this guy could just walk up here maybe or something, kill this guy at max melee range, and then back up 5 inches, and he's outside of the threat range. So use this as a general idea, not as a perfect example of how to do it, because they don't have cavalry. On the other hand, is very good at going in, killing some dudes, and then backing up and staying out of the little dudes' threat ranges. But maybe there's other models and units in this army that are going to try to deal with the Soul Hunters, and I just want to preserve some of the strength of the Iron Fang unit, and I want to do a bit of damage and make this unit use its activation to kill these models. Sometimes that's an advantage enough, just forcing your opponent to react in a predictable manner. So that's a unit anatomy, basic unit anatomy, and unit functionality, how it activates, and also a little bit of a taste of don't just line your dudes up in a big line. I see it happen all the time, especially shield wall units. You just get a big chunk of 10 dudes, and you're like, great, I'm just going to kill all those dudes in one turn. I don't have to worry about it next turn. So don't do that. Break your unit up into like front line, main line, reserve. That's always a good thing. So you have 3 waves of dudes. So you always have some part of that unit left for the game. And mini feats, unit functionality, that all differs, but you can see that that's generally how it functions. So if you're new to infantry, don't be afraid. They're fun. Just don't line them all up and get them all killed.